Codependency is such an illusion. I think it's one of the most common behavioral, psychological, emotional, and perhaps even spiritual illusions that we can find in the human condition. I've been coaching people on codependency for 17 years. I've been on my own codependency healing journey for 34 years. I started when I was a teenager, and I have just seen it over and over and over again that codependency is just, it's this haze of personal disconnection that a lot of us walk around in. And it's really hard to pinpoint it because for a lot of us on the outside, we seem relatively well adjusted. At work or at home, seems like everything's going okay. But on the inside, there is such a personal disconnect because when we were kids, for a lot of us, we were traumatized out of being connected to ourselves. We were traumatized out of our body. We were raised to focus more on somebody else's reality than our own. We were raised to conform to somebody else's reality to find ourselves in reaction or response to somebody else's reality. And so, because that's what kept us safe, or that's what kept the home sort of quiet or in this some level of regulation, right? So we were raised to be disconnected to ourselves, and then that sort of becomes the norm. But the norm is an illusion. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the illusion and how normal it is for a lot of us to be in some sort of illusion of self. And also a bunch of free workshops coming up. I've been really dialing in ways to deliver this work in sort of smaller chunks. I'm also going to be talking about how much emphasis I think there is out there in the healing world on narcissists and avoiding narcissists and avoiding controlling people and creating boundaries against other people. Again, I think a lot of that, while some of that is useful, I think a lot of it is just another way for us to focus on what we think other people are doing and not what we are feeling. So, okay, here we go. Please like or subscribe to my channel, and here we go. Well, there are certainly extreme situations out there where there are people diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder that are potentially dangerous people because they're not behind the wheel of their own experience to an extreme extent, okay? But the word narcissism is thrown around like, you know, every time you use that word, it could sound like you're talking about somebody who's diagnosable. But there are certainly narcissistic behaviors or habits that a lot of us have and are not necessarily diagnosable, right? Like where we think that our reality is the only reality, right? That our opinion is actually right. It's actually not an opinion, it's a truth. Or we're not aware of our impact on other people, okay? These are things that, or we're not aware that we could even impact other people. And we think that we are the victims to everybody else's reality because we don't know that we have an impact too. When we think that only others have impacts on us, we don't notice that we have an impact on other people. And we're more focused outside of ourselves than inside of ourselves. These are very common sort of habits or behaviors or tendencies that one could call narcissistic, but they're also codependent, right? And they can also cause what people call gaslighting, right? So there's all, or manipulation or control. These are all words that are thrown around that are all focused on the same thing. What they all have in common is codependency and the illusion of codependency. Because if we're simply just making sure we look out for narcissists or manipulative people, then what are we doing? We're focused outside of ourselves on other people's behavior. So I just think that there's too much encouragement out there to look out for other people's personalities and other people's personality types, as opposed to looking within ourselves. Because here's the thing, you may come across a controlling person, but that's not inherently a problem unless you feel controlled, unless you feel bullied, unless you feel diminished. And so in my work, Your Codependent Awakening, it was called the Conscious Codependence Process, but I'm rebranding because the book is coming out, and the book is called Your Codependent Awakening. So you may hear me call it two things, right? I'm sort of in the middle of this transition of titles here. But in the work that I've developed, and I've been healing my codependency for 34 years because I started when I was a teenager, I focus on you and what you're feeling and the phenomenon that's going on inside of you. It has nothing to do with anybody else. Because in our codependency, we have all these dysfunctional, unhealthy relationships that don't seem, am I recording? Yeah, that don't seem connected. It's not because the other person is narcissistic or the other person is not paying attention. It's because of your codependency, because you're not paying attention to yourself. I was in many, many, many relationships, and I could look back and go, that person was narcissistic, or that person was so gaslighting, or that person was manipulative or controlling. But it doesn't matter how they were being. What's most important was how I was feeling, which was focused on them and changing them and making them happy and making them change their mind, improving myself, right? So it actually doesn't even matter how they were being. What mattered is I was not honoring what I was feeling. And so some of the problem, I think, is that we are focused on what they're feeling and not honoring what we're feeling and not noticing what we're feeling. And we're focused on their reality being more real than our reality being more real. So again, this is the illusion of codependence. It is so easy in the illusion of codependency to notice other people's behaviors more than your own. It's so easy to notice what you think other people are feeling and what's happening for them and what you think they're thinking about you because you're outside of yourself. Codependency will have us be outside of ourselves. Codependency is the thing that says they're narcissistic and they're gaslighting and they're controlling and they're manipulating. What's most important is how you feel. When we dissolve codependency, you will know who to lean into, which relationship to lean into, because you have leaned into your relationship with yourself. Like I said, I dated all these people where I could go back and go, they were this way and they were that way and they were this way. But what's most important is I was not in relationship with myself. Yes, I was in relationship after relationship after relationship with men who I don't think were in relationship with themselves, but I would have never brought them into my life if I was in relationship with myself. So it's more important to look at your own codependency than other people's narcissism. It's more important, I think, to look at your own codependency than other people's gaslighting tendencies or manipulative tendencies. It's more important to look at our own codependency than what we think other people should change about themselves in order to sustain their relationship. Because codependency will have us look at their behavior and overlook our own behavior. It will have us look at their behavior and overlook our own feelings and our own truths and our own permission to speak and be our own source of safety and self-worth and value. Codependency has us go, they are being like this, so I can't talk to them, right? Or they are being like this, so I can't have my freedom in this relationship because of how they're being. When we diffuse and dissolve the illusion of codependency, we go, I can't be in a relationship because of how I'm feeling. Not because of their behavior, but because of what I'm experiencing and what's happening for me and my truth and my feelings and what I want, right? And that's not selfish or self-serving. It's actually dissolving codependency so that you can be in relationship with your truth. More in relationship with your truth than what you think somebody else's truth is. When we are more in relationship with what we think somebody else's truth is, then we are more in relationship with our traumatic identity. And that's the other really specific shift that we make in my work, is telling the difference between the truth of your trauma, right? Or the truth of your traumatic identity, the way in which your trauma is interpreting things going. In some schools of thought, they call that your inner child. I call it your traumatic identity, the identity that developed in response to your parents' or guardians' reality. And so you're able to tell the difference, like who inside me is reacting. Is it me or is it my traumatic identity? Am I interpreting this person through the filter of my trauma, or is actually my true self? Am I interpreting this person through my regressed self? Because codependency is inherently regressive. It is a younger version of us that is looking outside of us to somebody else for our reality, for our connection, for our sense of what's actually happening, for permission to be, right? So we want to bring ourselves back into our body, back into our true nature, back into our heart, back into our intuition, develop an inner compass so that we can actually trust ourselves and our own truth. Because in codependence, there's this like inferiority, superiority thing, and we're trusting what's happening with somebody else more than what's happening over here with us. That anybody else is in the driver's seat of your experience is an illusion. It's just an illusion. And it's regressive, because when you were a kid, there were other people in the driver's seat of your experience. You can navigate any relationship, in the relationship, out of the relationship, halfway in the relationship, however you want to be present or be a part of a relationship is completely and 100% up to you when you are in your body connected to your intuition. Are there narcissistic people out there? Are there controlling people out there? Are there manipulative people out there? Yeah, sure. And you know what? You might be one of them sometimes, and I might be one of them sometimes. This illusion of them, they're narcissists, and those controlling people and those bullies, it encourages separatism. It encourages power. They're more powerful, or they're bad people. They, right? It encourages us being a victim to other people's realities. When moment to moment to moment, you could be the narcissist. You could be the gaslighter. You could be the one that isn't totally connected here, or understanding what the other person is saying or wanting, right? And so we're all passing it around, this narcissism, gaslighting, codependency thing, but it's all under the umbrella of codependency. It's all codependency. It is all a dissociation of self. It is all focused outside of ourselves more than focused within ourselves. It's all the same. With the exception, of course, of people who are diagnosable with things. If we're talking about that level of not having agency around one's own personality or psychology, that's a different thing. But when it comes to codependency, it's not that different, because always, 100% of the time, we get to look at, how am I feeling? What's happening for me here? Am I feeling controlled? Am I feeling free to say what I want to say? Am I feeling worth and value and at choice in any given moment, and present to my own interpretations, projections, and desires? That is where we come back to our relationship with ourselves in any relationship, okay? Regardless of what we want to title or judge or project onto somebody else, okay? So codependency is the illusion that you are not free to be exactly yourself with any personality type, in any kind of relationship. It's an illusion. I put a link below to the free workshop, the 3 codes to clear codependency, plus 1 bonus code. So come to the free workshop, get on my email list. I have lots of free resources, articles, videos. I also put a link below to my most recent article, and it's titled Own Your Codependency. We have to own our codependency. We have to own the moments that we leave ourselves. We have to start to dissolve that ability that we have to leave ourselves. And that's what I do in this work, the conscious codependence process, aka the codependent awakening. We have to dissolve that traumatic reaction of leaving ourselves and focusing more on somebody else's personality, interpretations, wants, desires, reality. That's what I do in my work, okay? We dissolve that dissociative habit. It is massively important, because a lot of us are walking around, like I said at the beginning, not in relationship with ourselves, which is the number one most important relationship. There is not one relationship in your life that doesn't reflect your relationship with yourself. And the more of us that own our codependency, the more common we will see that it is, because codependency is unbelievably common, and I'm out to normalize it. I want all of us to be looking at our codependent habits and behaviors so that we can free ourselves of them and get back in alignment with ourselves. Because when we are in deep relationship and alignment with ourselves and intimate with ourselves and connected with ourselves, then we can be truly and deeply and authentically connected with other people. So our relationship with ourselves echoes out to our friends, our families, our communities, and the world at large. Thank you so much for listening to this video. Come on into the Codependent Awakening community. Happy healing. And remember, your relationship with yourself is where it all begins. I'm Cheryl Feidelman. Thanks again. See you soon.